Hello, welcome. We're starting a few minutes early here to make sure that we've got the technology all set up, ready to go. Hopefully we do. So first of all, let me just check in with you guys and see how you're doing. How's everyone? Say hello if you can hear me. Say if you can say, I can hear you loud and clear. I haven't started sharing my screen yet, but as soon as I do, you'll be able to see that. But just say hi, make sure that you can hear what I'm saying. And then I'm not talking into a black hole. So we're getting people piling on here. So Tom says, hey, it sounds great. Awesome. Hey, Ed, loud and clear. Corey, great. Barb, Eric, getting lots of people in here. James, cool. Everyone can hear me. Thank you. Thank you. So I keep forgetting, and I will remember eventually that Webinar Jam has a 10-second delay here, and it's not like GoToWebinar, which does not. So awesome. Awesome. We've got a lot to cover today, and I'm going to get started here literally in a minute. Usually I wait 4 or 5 minutes into the broadcast to get started, but because we have a lot to cover and because I am on my vacation, even though it's a staycation, I'm not exactly traveling the world right now. We literally went from San Diego to San Diego to San Diego. Aloha, Jonathan. I know who that is. I hope it went well today, Jonathan. I hope that you have good news for us. So my friend Jonathan Meisel here with us. Good stuff here. Good stuff coming in today. We are, like I said, staying in a hotel in downtown San Diego and just getting away for a few days. It's not a long vacation, but we haven't had a vacation for I guess it's been about 6 months. So we wanted to take a little family break. And then I said, well, I've got coaching things that we're doing, so we've worked that into the schedule. So we today are going to go over step 1 of the 5-step VSL process. That's what you're expecting. But we got more for you than that, because all the time we're gonna get, oh, thanks. That sounds better than I expect from last. Yeah, you know what's funny? It's like I've heard that so many times. I actually recorded one of my best video sales letters speaking into this very laptop, just speaking into the laptop. It was on my lap, so there you go. How's that? Hey, Christina. Hey, Dion. Hey, guys. Just come on in. So we're going to talk about, of course, step 1, which is all about creating pattern interrupts, creating the very first 30 seconds of your VSL. It's called the snap suggestion. For those of you who have not gone through Sellerator, you'll want to bring up in another window your Sellerator application. Definitely not in this window, otherwise you won't be able to hear or see what I'm saying. See what I'm saying. Boy, I'm a copywriter, aren't I? You won't be able to hear me. You won't be able to see me. You want to be able to see the screen and check out what we're going to go over today, because we're not just going to cover pattern interrupts. I'm going to cover 3 new ways. They're not new ways, they're just inventive ways of doing pattern interrupts. I'm going to show you the video sales letters, because they're all people that have gone through Sellerator. One of them in particular is in Copy Posse right now and pretty active. I think he's not as active as he used to be because he's making so much money now, but I'm going to have to kick his butt and get him back in there. But he used it. It's just right out of Sellerator, as you'll see. But I want to show you how he did it that makes it really unique. And I'll show you my wife's pattern interrupt, which uses video, which I think is very clever too. But then there's a cool pattern interrupt that's being used to get a typical image interrupt that you'll see in 1,000 video sales letters, but they're using kind of an annoying sound and a musical tone to get you started into the video sales letter, which breaks the pattern. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can get someone's attention right off the bat and kind of scratch the record that's going on in their mind so that they'll pay attention to what you're having to say. And then we'll talk through all of the 5 steps of the VSL, all of step 1 of the VSL formula, walk through it literally step by step. And we're going to keep going, keep going, keep going. So be sure to have it out. We're going to walk through it, and we'll be taking questions at the very end. So I'm going to start right now by sharing my screen. And hopefully this is the right screen. You'll tell me here in just a second if you can see the infinite going into Never Never Land. Just let's make sure that you can see my screen and come on. And if you don't mind, Leanne will be helping us moderate today. Make sure that you can see this, Leanne, and then we'll get rolling.
I see it. There's Wes's big muscles hanging out.
Yeah, there's Wes. Yeah. Actually, it's funny because that's actually that's not Wes. That's a guy that looks a lot like Wes.
Yeah, he does.
So it looks a lot like him, but okay. So before we get started, I know that there are going to be some folks on the call that are experienced Sellerator users. There's going to be people on the call that are brand new to this. If you don't know what a pattern interrupt is, please say so. Please let me know that if you don't know what a pattern interrupt is. And Leanne, if there's any, just say, if there's a lot of people saying, I don't know, let me know. And if everyone's gone through Sellerator, gone through week 1, gone through step 1, then you'll know what it is. But just in case, and that's cool if you don't, just say so, and I'll briefly explain it, and then we'll dive into some examples, and we'll show you how easy it is to do this. But I want to, as soon as we get through doing that, I want to talk to you about the psychology behind it, just in case you're not familiar. So Leanne, do we have anyone?
Actually, Tony has a funny question about a pattern interrupt. He says, what's a pattern interrupt? Is that something like when my girlfriend slaps my face for no good reason?
That could be a very solid, pattern interrupt, yeah.
Other than Tony's question, there are a few people that are saying, not sure, don't know, quick explain if you could. So yeah, I guess if you could do a quick, explanation of it.
Will do. So it's easier to show you than it is explain it to you, but I do want to explain the psychology before I show it to you so that you'll know what to look for. When you go to a website, like this one is just, I picked 3 websites literally 15 minutes before this call. This is not any sort of like in-depth research I'm doing here on case studies, because there are literally thousands of Sellerator style video sales letters out there that you can find. These are just 3 that I knew off the top of my head, and I thought they would make really good case studies. Pattern interrupts when you go to a website. Let's say that you go to a website like this one is about weight loss. If you go to another one that there are 2 in here about weight loss, just so happens to be. The third one is about, it deals with spirituality and women's empowerment. I could have pulled anyone from any industry you can think of. When you go to the website, any website, looking for something, one of the things that creates the power of a video sales letter that really engages your prospect is the fact that you can do something they're not expecting. Now, I'm not suggesting that you show a video of a dog spinning spinning plates on its nose. That's probably wouldn't work that well. The cool thing is about a pattern interrupt is that you want to interrupt their pattern from wherever they're coming from. In other words, you're going to snap their brain into a different mode of attention. And this is a strategy used in neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, and we use NLP along with a lot of other language tools throughout the copy that you'll find in Sellerator. The power of this is to temporarily disengage the conscious mind, the prefrontal cortex. I'm calling it the conscious mind. It's not technically correct, but the prefrontal cortex, where if you tap your forehead, you'll feel it. This is the part of your brain that analyzes everything, that's typing into a web browser, that's going, I'm going to go click on this banner, I'm going to look at this site, I'm going to do this, I want to know more about dog training, or I want to know more about finances, or I want to get a service that will help me retire early. It could be anything, doesn't matter. When you get to that page, chances are very great that you have come already from something on the web. You've watched a YouTube video, you've been on Facebook, you've been on Twitter, you've checked your email, and your brain isn't quite 100% there. Have you ever been there where your brain hasn't quite locked in exactly 100%? So think about this. The average length of time spent on a website, even a killer website, is under 7 seconds. That's the average length of time. So you don't have that much time to get somebody's attention. The problem is that when you're going to a website, or when your prospect is coming to your website, he or she has already got a little bit of brain scramble going on. They're already got a lot of things on their mind, and they're just not ready to fully lock in. Now, you've seen this a million times. I'm going to give this to you in an example I think that will really help it really lock home for you. When you start watching a movie, let's say that you're sitting down tonight with your wife or your husband, and you're going to say, hey, we're going to rent a movie. You guys rent a movie on pay-per-view, or whatever it is, pay-per-view. I'm sorry, I'm a UFC guy, so I'm renting a fight on pay-per-view. Or you're renting a movie, you're renting a movie on whatever they call on demand or whatever, right? And you start watching the movie, and let's say the movie just starts like right away, instead of credits or whatever, and it just starts right away. If it just boom, it starts, you're not expecting that. And chances are very great that's like, hey, you're kind of paying attention. Now, even then, granted, let's say that your wife, like mine, might be going, oh, wait, 1 second, I'm going to run to the kitchen and grab something, grab a snack. And she misses the first 30 seconds of the movie, right? Let's say that happens. So when she comes back, what's the first question she's going to ask you? Someone type it into the chat box, right? What's happening? What did I miss, right? So I'm sure if you've had this experience with your wife or husband or significant other, please type that in, because I have it all the time. What did I miss? What did he say? What did he say? I get that one a lot too. So what's happening is her mind isn't completely locked onto this film yet at all. It's locked onto I'm hungry, or I want to make sure my hubby is taken care of, or oh, I forgot to put the cat out, or whatever the case may be. It's not locked in. And your prospect is the same way. But chances are, if that movie started off, boom, right off the bat, like kind of like Clinton, like a Tarantino film can sometimes start off with just something really shocking, right? It will get your attention, and all of a sudden you're locked into paying attention. But if a movie starts off like your typical movie, where it just kind of starts easing in, the credits start rolling, be honest, are you paying attention? Are you really watching all the actors' names and the key gaffer and the director and the lighting guy? No, you're probably not paying much attention. I mean, it's kind of drifting in the background, and movie producers know this, so they usually don't put a whole lot of stuff during the credits. So think of your first 7 or 10 seconds of your video sales letter as rolling credits of an upcoming movie that's what you're about to watch, and that your audience is grabbing popcorn. So this does not bode well for a sale. You must grab their attention, and you're going to do it during step 1, the snap suggestion. Here's the power of this, or here's the potency of this, rather, is you only have 7 seconds on the web. You've got longer than that when you're watching a movie. You're kind of committed. You know, you've rented it, you're sitting down, you'll watch the movie, right? You're not committed to a video sales letter. You clicked the link. That's all you did, either in an email or you clicked a link in a banner ad. That's all your prospect did to watch a video sales letter. So you better make sure that you grab his or her attention as quickly as possible. And one of the best ways to do that is by giving them something they're not expecting. Something, either a sound or a visual. And I teach in Sellerator visual and locking in an NLP style image. In other words, an image, something that they're not expecting, that you're going to tie back in later on. It's called opening a loop. You're going to start with an image. It doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes. And you'll say, I know that looks really weird and really confusing. Maybe that looks really bizarre to you. Just hang with me for a few minutes. This will make total sense to you if you keep watching. All I've done was open a loop. I said, this is really strange, but keep watching and it's going to make sense. So I've given them a reason, at least a little bit of curiosity to keep watching. So before I show you these pattern interrupts, and these are all pattern ups that are working on $1 million plus video sales letters, just FYI. So these are very lucrative sales letters. I do want to tell you this. When people started they didn't take Sellerator, they just watched Sellerator style videos and they kind of got the idea. I've seen so many bad pattern interrupts. I've lost count. And a lot of people will think that a pattern interrupt is just some random image that you put in there and then you never explain it. You just kind of throw it in there. That's not going to make much sense. Or even worse, they give an image that you're completely expecting. For example, you go to a weight loss site and you're completely expecting to see, hi, this is Wes, and here are my abs, right? Here's me flexing my muscles. That's exactly what you're expecting. So while that on one level makes sense, oh, it's congruent with the ad I clicked on, subconsciously or beyond the prefrontal cortex of your mind, it doesn't work. Because it's all jumbled and confused, and this is not going to help it. So we're going to, believe it or not, this is the way this works. When something's jumbled and confused in your brain, we're going to jumble and confuse it a little bit more with something else. And then all of a sudden, that prefrontal cortex will kick back in, and you'll start paying attention. Now, the last thing I want to say about this that makes it really freaking cool is when this happens, when your brain snaps back into attention, either through something really random or a noise or a vision or something visual, and you'll go, wow, what the heck was that? Am I paying attention? You're paying attention now. You're open to suggestion. You're far more open to auditory suggestion than you normally are. Now, I'm not saying that all of a sudden you can say bark like a dog, buy everything I sell. That's not what I mean. It's just that you're slightly more receptive to hearing new ideas. And this is borne out in so many different things that we do in day-to-day life. So many different things that we do, from how we teach a child something. So when you teach a child something, sometimes you can come up to a child and say, hi, Violet, our child, Violet, I want to show you how to play this game. Now, chances are for a 4.5-year-old, her attention span is all over the place. She's not exactly going to be zoomed into that thing. But if I go, hey, Violet, look at this, and I pull out this really bizarre looking creature that's in this game, and she's going, wow. I go, you want to learn about this creature? It's inside this game. Do you want me to tell you about it? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to tell you about this creature in just a moment. First, let me tell you about the rules. So we do this all the time. All I did was open a loop. I opened a loop using a goofy creature. Well, actually, today it was a squirrel. We used this squirrel. Hey, you want to learn how to play this game? Look at this squirrel. The squirrel really didn't have all that much to do with the game, but it was in the game. So that's how I want you to think of pattern interrupts, is something where you're giving your prospect something that you're going to tell them about later. It's going to make total sense to what their goals are in a few moments. But at first, they have no idea what's going on. But what that's going to do is it's going to open their creative mind. You're going to show them something that's going to be like, wow, what is that? So the creative mind is open, and the prefrontal cortex is more open to suggestion than it normally would be. You've lowered their defenses. And it's one of these strategies that doesn't seem like on the surface it would work really well, but it works exceptionally well. Now, one last thing, and then I'll dive into these examples. What you want to avoid like the plague is a cheesy, nondescript, very lame, let's just use the word lame, pattern interrupt. In other words, you just say, hi, this is John, and here is a picture of a straw. And this straw is your miracle straw for helping you lose weight. It's a miracle straw, right? And you're like, what? And you never talk about why straws are important, or, like that might work if I'm like let's say that I have a diet all based on smoothies, and I could bring out a straw and go, hey, believe it or not, this straw caused me to lose 35 pounds this year. I know, it's kind of crazy. This silly straw is the secret to my weight loss. I'm going to explain that in a moment. That's clever if I have a smoothie that I'm talking about, if I'm, in other words, and I drink it through a straw, right? So it has to be relevant to what you're talking about. Preferably relevant, as I teach in Sellerator, to what's going on inside what's called your nightmare story. Now, no, we're not going to talk about nightmare stories this week. That's next week. But the nightmare story is one of the parts of the video sales letter where you do get to put your 2 cents worth in. I do teach you how to write that story, and it can be a very short story, but you can use an image from that, something that pulls up from the past or pulls into the user into your storyline, and then you re-engage them when you talk about that image. And probably now is a good time to give you the very first pattern interrupt is, and honestly, I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I mean, I knew NLP, I knew I was kind of opening a loop, but I didn't know about the pattern interrupt power. I was just throwing something out because I'd never seen it before. And it was for one of my first weight loss books called The Every Other Day Diet. And I showed a picture of an old leather jacket, which was my old leather jacket. It was really huge because I used to be like a size 48 jacket and waist. It was huge, right? Not shoulders, waist. That was my waistline. So I showed this picture, this huge jacket. I go, this huge jacket is what I call my magic jacket. I know that sounds really ridiculous, but this magic jacket holds a secret to your weight loss. And I'll tell you what I mean in a few minutes. So I made that more about their weight loss. This magic jacket holds the secret to your weight loss. That would have been really cheesy and dumb. And by the way, it's been used a lot today, so I wouldn't use that particular one. But that would have been really dumb had I not tied that back into the story. In my story, I stole donuts from a convenience store, which is a true story, and I hid them under this jacket. I was so hungry and I was so starving for sugar that I would never steal normally, but I left my wallet at the office, and so I stuck these donuts underneath I don't mean like I stuck a 4 or 5 packet of donuts underneath my jacket, but I was so overweight at the time, the guy never noticed. So when I walked outside, I realized, wow, I can't believe I've let myself go this far where I'm stealing food. And so this jacket, I just looked down the jacket, and it just kind of became like this symbol of what it meant for me to be overweight. And then when I got leaner and leaner, it didn't fit anymore. And then I ended up giving away to charity. And I made this whole story out of this jacket, right? And that's why that worked as a pattern interrupt. So all this teaching, by the way, most of this teaching is found inside Sellerator. What I'm showing you now is the pattern interrupts that are working right now as we speak in 2016. And you'll see that they're very similar to what was working when we originally created Sellerator, but with a few cool distinctions. The first distinction is what I want to call something that is that ties into everyone's core value. Now, Wes is a former soldier. And so what he did is he tied a story into the as you'll see here in a moment, into something that we can all relate to, especially during this time in our country. So you can take a pattern interrupt and really tie it into something that's very hot topic going on inside the culture of the day. So I'm not talking about, let's say that when something's trendy, you don't want to do a pattern interrupt of a trendy song, because that song will be non-trendy in a month. It won't work. But for something that's a really hot topic, for example, right now, a hot topic is anything dealing with politics, anything dealing with war, anything dealing with fighting. Where a lot of people are saying, hey, let's start taking better care of our veterans. So that's touching a lot of nerves, especially with his audience. And he has a story that worked really, really well for that. So I want to show you the first few seconds of the story, but here's the pattern interrupt that Wes uses for I think it's the #1 weight loss product right now called Fat Diminisher.
I'm Wes, and I have an unusual story to share with you about how I was scared to death, half naked, looking down the barrel of an M16 rifle, heart pounding, moments from pulling the trigger, 2 seconds from almost being killed, to be suddenly slapped over the head with a bizarre binder that saved the life of Patricia Ron, a 45-year-old out-of-shape woman who had a sudden heart attack caused by symptoms she didn't even know she had.
Now, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? He took a story where you're not expecting to see a guy, a military guy, a Marine with a rifle, talking about like I'm about to get shot. I'm literally moments away, bullets whizzing by me, getting shot. And then all of a sudden he does a double interrupt. So you're watching this going, wait, I thought this was about weight loss. He's talking about like, I'm going to tell you the story about how I almost got shot, but he's tapping into what's very hot right now in the culture and has been hot for a long time. And that's being patriotic. Okay. Doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you're on. Chances are very great you're patriotic. Even if you're anti-war, you can at least appreciate someone doing something like this. So it's tapping into something, especially the audience that he's going for, because weight loss, the audience is roughly, the average buyer is 62 years old. They're a little older than most people think. So this is really tying into what they're really thinking, because there's a lot of fear, and they're for right or wrong, and there's a lot of support for our troops. So he tapped into that. He has a personal story to share, but where he came in out of left field was, what on earth is he talking about? He got hit over the head with a binder, and this woman lost. It's like your mind can't make sense of what he's saying. Okay, but then he goes into the promises and the benefits of what I talk about inside Sellerator, to mysteriously lose 38 pounds in a few short weeks. Now, and that's an extreme claim. I'm not into extreme claims. I'm not trying to diss Wes or anything. That's an extreme claim. A few short weeks is clever wording, because few doesn't have a definitive number. It can mean 2, it can mean 5 would probably work. But the point is that now we're talking about weight loss, but it took us this long to get into it. And your attention is probably, you want to know what happened, right? What on earth is the connection between you getting shot at and a woman losing 38 pounds? That's a very clever pattern interrupt. Now, when Wes came up with this, by the way, this was not his first pattern interrupt. His first 2 or 3 tries through Sellerator he did not do well. Now, granted, he took some good advice given to him by somebody I know pretty well, and he repositioned the name. He changed the name of his product and he repositioned it, and he did a great job with that. But when he was doing it, he also retooled the copy. His other interrupts were fine. This one's just even better. So if you don't get it right the first time, you stay with it. Wes is a great example, and he's in the Copy Posse. He's a great example of someone who did not give up, who kept going, and now he's doing extremely well, to say the least. So that pattern interrupt, let me recap it for you, that's just a typical Sellerator. Go through the very first, in fact, in Sellerator, it's right here. It's right under pattern interrupt attention. Watch this video. It's one of the longer videos inside the training. It's 38 minutes long because I go into the psychology. You'll watch that video, and it will show you exactly what you just saw. In fact, if you come down here to the sample slides, let's load the sample slides here, and you select this, it'll say, hi, I'm name, and this is interrupt image. And this is what you're looking at right now is, don't you remember? That's exactly what he said. Hi, I'm Wes, and what you're looking at right now is me staring down the rifle. And he's just doing it literally slide by, just right out of this program. And again, this is the top selling diet book right now. So that's what you're capable of in a pattern interrupt. But I do want to make the distinction, and the distinction's not made because people innovate, and that's why we're doing these calls, that he tied something in that was very deep and dear to the society of the people he's going for. So ask yourself this question: does my product or service have something that I can tie into that would really ring true for people? It's something that most people would resonate with and go, yeah, that it kind of tugs at your heartstrings, or it tugs at it makes an emotional pull. It gets you a little bit more emotionally invested. Those make fantastic interrupts. If you don't have that, that's okay. I'm going to show you a couple that have nothing to do with that. But that's really cool if you do have that. So, and the last thing I want you to know is that Wes does tell that story about what he means by what is the connection between the bullets and the binder and all that kind of stuff. He tells that in his nightmare story later on in the video. So whatever you do, close the loop, tell the story, say, oh, remember that image at the first of the video where I showed you about me, and show the image again. Well, here's why that's about to make a lot of sense now, and then explain it. So you're going to close the loop. And if you'll go through Sellerator slide by slide, we keep opening loops. You'll open anywhere from 3 to 9 loops inside your script. And an open loop, again, in case I wasn't clear enough when I first explained this, is when I simply say, I'm going to tell you something in a few minutes. So keep watching. I'm just opening a loop. I'm giving you an example of an opening loop right now. I'm going to show you a pattern interrupt in a few minutes that uses the weirdest trick I've ever seen, that uses the combination of a picture and type. It's a weird form of type. I'll show it to you in a few minutes, so just keep watching. The first thing I want to do is show you something else. So all I did was open a loop right there. I just opened a loop to say, I'm going to show you this weird thing in a few minutes, so keep watching. All that's doing is keeping your mind going, okay, I want to keep watching. I want to keep watching. Now, obviously, it has to be something entertaining and cool or really informative. Like if I said, hey, in a few minutes, I'm going to show you pictures of me clipping my toenails this morning. So just keep watching. Unless you're like really weird or maybe sadomasochistic or something, you don't care about that, right? That's not going to be that appealing to you. But unless it's a video sales letter on nails or whatever. But if I say something like, hey, in a few minutes, I'm going to show you a graph that will show you how I increased my sales online by over $4,000 a month by just changing 5 words of a subject line. That's all I did was 5 words. I'm going to show you that subject line in just 3 minutes. So keep watching. Would you keep watching for 3 minutes? Yeah. Okay. Everyone's saying yes, right? Of course you would. Of course you would, because that's directly pertinent to what we're talking about. Now, I just made that up. Sorry, guys. But I actually could show you things that would make subject lines a lot better. But that's for another training. So that's what we're doing inside opening. And that's what you want to do inside when you start a pattern interrupt. You want to give someone a really awesome promise, or tie it, in this case, to a very bizarre image that's going to kind of scramble the mind. Now, I really like Beyond Diet's 5 Foods to Never Eat. This is one of the most common, the most common ad that's used right now in weight loss is 5 Foods to Never Eat. I used it for Every Other Day Diet way back in the day before these guys were ever around. These guys used it. You can't keep people from taking ads. An ad is something that's just, it's not intellectual property. I'm not suggesting that you rip ads off. I'm merely telling you the fact that that ad has gone around. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we created it with Mike Geary, but I don't even remember who created it. I think Mike created it. But the point is that there was a lot of ads that went around the block. And man, let me tell you, this one was a big one. And you know what? They might have created this and other people took it from me. I honestly don't remember. It's been that long. But the point is that there's an ad that says 5 Foods to Never Eat. And you click on it and it goes to this video. Now, a pattern interrupt normally would be like something like, hey, her name is Isabel. I'm Isabel. And, here's a picture of, and it used to start off this way. Here's a picture of me and my baby, my little baby. So that's an interrupt. And it's one that's appealing to her market. It's mostly women. And they're a cute little baby, and they're going, aw, and it's going to kind of break their attention a little bit, not expecting a baby in a weight loss video, right? Well, they've since changed it to go right exactly totally into the topic matter at hand. They're not going to waste any time. They're just going to bang these 5 foods, boom, 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 no time wasted. So you're thinking, wait, that's exactly the opposite of what you're talking about, John. You were just talking about showing someone something they don't expect. You're looking at a picture of food. This is exactly what I expect. Yes, except for how they start off, and listen to what they do that makes it work.
5 foods you should never eat: artificial sweeteners, soy milk, margarine, orange juice, and whole wheat bread. Now. Okay,
that was it. Now, you think this is, if I saw this, let's say when Sellerator first came out, I would have said, no, you're doing it wrong. And then I would have thought, wait, maybe not. That silly trumpet sound, da, 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 it's very obnoxious, okay? And it's not something that you expect to hear. If you didn't hear it, again, we'll give you the links to this thing so you can go listen to this yourself. But it's like this announcing kind of thing, like this royal trumpet sound, and it's just enough. Had they started off without that, chances are very great this would not be anywhere as nearly as successful, because there wasn't anything, and it wasn't enough to get your attention right off the bat. But that attention, it was literally an attention horn, like da da da. It's like pay attention, works like a charm. Now, notice they didn't keep it going. That would have been really obnoxious. But their original video sales letter was very famous because the guy, it was actually read by a friend of mine, Jeff. And Jeff and Isabel are partners. And Jeff started off the original video with this really goofy and completely accidental way of saying hello. So instead of saying, hey, I'm John, and this is so-and-so, or hey, I'm Jeff, this is so-and-so, he goes, hello. And that's literally how he said it. And for years, in every internet marketing conference I went to, somebody came up to Jeff and went, hello, because it just stuck in your head. And he kind of laughs about it. He had no plans for this, none. It was not marketing genius except by accident. And I know a little bit about that because I've had my share of accidents that people thought, oh man, that was so genius. No, it was a total accident. Video sales letters were a total accident, by the way. So, and now granted, dissecting them and coming up with a formula, that wasn't an accident, but how they started working and how I started doing them was a total accident. Well, that hello was a total accident, and that served as a pattern interrupt because you're not expecting to hear that. It's just something that you're not expecting to see. Now, this one is really cool for another reason. Right now in Google and Facebook, they're really big into congruency. They really want you the ad that you click on, if you're running any sort of traffic, they want if you go to a video sales letter, if you go to a sales page, they want that sales page to be very congruent. So if it starts off too crazy, like if they were to say, hi, my name's Isabel, and here's a picture of a raccoon and some bizarre thing like that, even if it was a clever pattern interrupt, Google and Facebook might go, no, they're not going to watch past the first 7 seconds either. So you got to remember, if you're running high traffic, you want to make sure that your video sales letter is as congruent as possible. Now, obviously, Wes's was much more out in left field until he started talking about weight loss, which happened plenty fast enough. So he wasn't so out there, it didn't make any sense. So that's another mistake that people make in pattern interrupts, is that they start a pattern interrupt and they get really crazy with it. Like I saw a guy that went through our training who just didn't, I don't think paid quite as much of attention to the videos as he should have, put a pattern interrupt together, and it was like, hi, this is Bill, and here's a picture of an old car, and here's a picture of this old car's engine, and this old car's wing nuts, and this old car's lug nuts, and this old car. He just went on and on and on about this old car, and it was a finance. It was for a finance product. Well, after about a minute of this, you're just like, I don't give a damn about your old car. Just window out, right? So do you see what I'm saying? Like the thing could have worked, but it just took way too long to get to the meat and potatoes. Excuse that analogy with that graphic showing, but that's the case. It's just you got to get to the point much faster than that. So you want to make sure that you tie in what the benefit is to the user for watching the video, and all this is in the Sellerator formulas. We'll go through them, like I said, here in just a few seconds, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. But this was a very good way of getting right to the point. So Google and Facebook is really happy, but you still get that bizarre, like da-da-da kind of thing that cuts into the user's prefrontal cortex, snaps it and back into attention, and allows you to focus on this. And the other thing about giving them exactly what they asked for right off the bat is, okay, it's great that you know that you should never eat these 5 foods. What you don't know is the foods you should eat. And that's the reason why negative advertising tends to work very well. I can tell you what to avoid, and I do that all the time. Here's the 3 things you need to avoid if you want a successful video sales letter. But that doesn't tell you what to do. There's a big difference between that. So I wanted to give this to you for 2 reasons. Number one is to show you 3 reasons, actually. The number one is to show you a Google compliant video sales letter. In other words, it shows you exactly what they talked about. Number 2, the auditory pattern interrupt. And number 3, and let's really think about this. You want to make sure that if you're going to do something like this, that you're wanting to tell someone what to avoid rather than how to do something. So avoidance is a huge selling point. And again, inside Sellerator, you'll find all this training inside the persuasion formula videos. People will go way out of their way to avoid pain before they will gain pleasure. It's just the way we're wired. I don't like this. I say this all the time. I don't like this part of humanity. I wish it was different. It's not. It's not. It's the way that we're wired right now. We do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So when I tell you what to avoid, if I was to say, hey, here are the 5 things you should always avoid, or the 5 words you should always avoid in your subject line, you will pay attention like there's no tomorrow. You're totally glued to the screen. If I tell you, on the other hand, here are 5 words you should always put in your subject line, you'll pay attention, but nowhere near as much as the ones to avoid. It's just the way we're wired. Now, if I do both, which is what this is what I encourage people to do, it's even better. But notice this before we move on: the 5 foods to never eat, plus the 3 biggest mistakes. Do you think that they're listening to what I'm talking about here? Yeah, they are. They know what they're doing. Okay, they know that most people are going to go, I want to know what not to eat, the biggest mistakes, you know. But then what do I do? Well, that's the rest of the video sales letter. What to avoid is important, but now what do I do? If you start off with here's what you do, you have nowhere else to go. And it's not as powerful as a mechanism to get people to watching your video. Okay, so the third and final pattern interrupt example that we're going to give that's really working well right now is one I want to give it to you because I don't want to scare you. Because notice, by the way, these are the only images. Like in Wes's video, and this, you don't need many images. All these videos, in fact, this one, I think Beyond Diet had like no images at all, even for their product. When their product came up, they didn't even have pictures of the product. So this is pretty much it. Now, they may have changed this particular video just for a test, but for the longest time, they were doing an incredibly high volume with a video sales letter with no images except right for the start. So again, Sellerator style ugly video sales letters, slides, primarily slides, just like you saw Wes started getting into the slides back over there. Certainly not high production. Both of these are things that anyone with 5 minutes of training inside of a Keynote or PowerPoint could easily do. This is not exactly sophisticated marketing. And that's the idea. You don't want it to look that way, okay? You don't want most video sales letters to look like it's super sophisticated. However, in the cases where you do want it to look more sophisticated, when you want it, when your audience is more, it's more geared to that. Let's say that you're selling really high-end houses and you're not collecting leads. You're actually trying to sell a house and it's a multi-million-dollar house, let's say. Well, then you're going to want, this isn't going to work, right? Obviously. But the same psychology will most certainly work. So I wanted to show you an image-based pattern interrupt. In other words, a video-based pattern interrupt. We used, this is what we shot for my wife, Rose. She has a video training course for women, and it's women's spirituality and empowerment. And that market is just very visual. That market is they're into beautiful things. They resonate with colors. They're really tapped into a lot of different ways, a lot of different imagery styles. So, and Rose is extremely good on camera. So putting those two together, we opted to go with an image interrupt. And what's interesting though is after the video, a video interrupt, after the video, we went straight to slides. And we broke up those slides with just about 15 to 30 seconds of video in 4 times. So we shot all the video. The whole video shoot was like under 5 minutes. So we used 5 minutes or so of video, and that's it. For a product that really could have easily been shot all on video. But here's the thing. It could have been shot all on video. Would it have been as effective? Slides are hypnotic. So that's the last thing I want to talk about before we get it. I'll show you Rose's example, then we'll dive into step 1 here. Hypnosis, not like bark like a dog hypnosis, but hypnosis in the sense that you create a pattern that gets your mind out of its groove to where you start paying more attention with both the conscious and subconscious mind, is one of the strongest reasons why video sales letters work so well. If you're reading something on a screen, your mind can go anywhere it wants. If I'm showing you the words to read, and I'm only allowing you to read X amount of words, and then I'm going to show you the next amount of words and the next amount of words, there's a hypnosis factor that takes up. It gets very hypnotic. You start kind of watching and reading, and then when your eyes start glazing over, your ears are still listening. So that's why video sales letters work so well. That being said, there are exceptions to every rule. I never said, for example, you should never put video, like live video, in a video sales letter. I said you should never do that in your close when you go to pitch. I don't think that's a good idea at all. Most of the time, you should use very little, if any. But let's say that you're in an industry like my wife's, where video is much more commonplace, where pretty things are appealing. You're going to an audience where they want to see the person because she's an expert. They want to actually look at her for a second. So how would you do that? Well, listen to the script that we used, and you'll hear the same exact style, a pattern interrupt, without the, I'm going to show you something in the future, because we're already showing her something. We're already showing you the video image. Now, the interrupt here was really interesting because the interrupt we chose for the video was actually this old barn in Julian, California, where we shot this, and it just pans across this beautiful landscape in California, and that was what we used it as the interrupt. So I'll show you this real quick.
Pause with me. Take a deep breath. Can you feel it? It's your heart.
So all it is she literally says, pause with me, and she sticks out her hand to say stop. This is as clear of an interrupt as you can get. I'm literally saying stop, and that's what you're wanting to do in a pattern interrupt from a psychological perspective. You're trying to get someone to stop what they're doing, to pay attention. So knowing that we didn't have the power of like, hey, this is some bizarre thing, this is some interesting image, this is some noise, I wanted to get their attention right off the bat by saying pause. But rather than saying stop, which was too abrupt for her voice and too abrupt for the audience, because the audience, they're much more genteel, I said pause. So it just says pause with me and take a deep breath. So I'm literally giving a command right off the bat. Pause with me and take a deep breath. And then we start talking about, do you feel it? Okay, and then she starts talking about what the significance of the heart and why that's so important in her message and what she goes into. So this is literally about a 2-minute video. It's a very short interrupt, and then it goes into mostly slides. And from there, it's just straight ahead, just slide-based video sales letters. So those are 3 different styles of pattern interrupts that you can use. If you use video, I highly recommend that you don't start off with what everyone else would have started off with. So let me make this point so clear that you don't miss it. Most people would have started off with saying, hi, my name is Rose Cole, and I'm an expert in blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? That's exactly what you're expecting. You're already tuned out. Despite, you could be a rabid fan of Rose's work. You could be really into self-empowerment. You could be into your personal development. You could be into everything she's talking about. And you're not as tuned in because she's talking about her. And that's the lesson I want you to take away from this, is all of these pattern interrupts are talking actually about somebody else. Even the one with Wes, yes, he was the one getting shot at, but it led to something that helped somebody else lose weight. 5 foods to never eat is simply, these are the 5 foods you should never eat. You notice it never said anything about Isabel, nothing about Isabel. And in this particular case, nothing about Rose. In fact, she doesn't even say who she is. This goes on, and she'll say, look.
It's more than an organ that pumps life-giving blood to your body. This, your spiritual heart, is what can guide you to your greatest destiny. Your spiritual heart longs to guide you towards integration.
See, we just used 2 different angles. We used 2 cameras and shot this for such a ridiculously low budget. It was ridiculous. And it worked. But notice what we're doing with hands. We're doing hand gestures. We're doing a lot of things to really pull people's attention in. 2 different angles, the words on the screen, et cetera, which is going to come into be kind of important. But you still don't know who's talking to you. You still don't know who this person is. And this goes on for 2.5 minutes before she says, hi, my name is Rose Cole. Now, the reason why is because I am only interested in talking about the person. So if you were to watch this video again, listen to how many times the word you and your is used in this intro. It's used all the time. So when your pattern interrupts or your first few slides, you're looking at your first few slides, notice how many times I use that word in the scripts that you'll find within Sellerator, but I want you to use it as much as you want, you and your. Tap into what the person watching the video, tapping into their pain, tapping into their desires, tapping into what they're afraid of. Absolutely, that's huge. In this particular case, we're tapping into something that's a little bit more positive, but this turns very dark. And the reason we started off here is because we started off sort of really light, feel something really light, and then it goes pretty dark. It goes into some really heavy stuff. And when I say dark, I mean heavy, very heavy, very, very heavy stuff. So, but it's all about the user. It's all about their experience, okay? Now, I've got a surprise for you that I want to show. I want to do this before we get into step 1 coaching, if that's okay with you guys. And I promised you in the email that I would show you a way of doing images in video sales letters that are working right now. And it's, the funny thing is that I didn't come up with this. A friend of mine showed me this. I don't know who came up with it. We just took it and made it better. And we made it better, and we tested it head to head in this particular video sales letter. And the one with images, and I don't want you to freak out thinking, oh my gosh, you told me I could do slides and now you're wanting me to do images. Just hang with me for a second. I promise it's all right. The one with images out-converted the one without images 6 times over. It was a 600% conversion difference. Amazing. But here's what's interesting. When we've ran image tests in the past, meaning we'll instead of showing all slides, we'll show a picture, or we'll show pictures in the middle of slides. Like we'll show slides and we'll show a picture, and they'll be talking over the picture. The conversions would almost always drop. Almost always. Slides almost always beats images. Almost always. And then also, by the way, it almost always beats video. I've beaten slides so many. I've beaten video like this so many times with just slides. This is a rare exception, but I want to show you, cover the gamut. I want to cover every single thing I can think of to help you guys out during this training. So it was how we formatted the slides. So the reason why pattern interrupts work and the reason why video sales letters work is because there's words on the screen. There's words on the screen. Your mind has to follow the words on the screen. My friend Rob Polis, who did Fat Burning Furnace, he, I think, was the first guy to uncover this, but he did it in a way that was nowhere near as, I think, as effective. We all improve on things, but it worked so much better for his conversions. He started putting images inside of some of his slides, but he would put the text at the very bottom to where it was like almost like you're reading a closed caption. And that bumped the conversions dramatically higher than just having the images on the page. So you want to avoid just putting images in there and thinking, oh my gosh, people are going to get bored looking at slides. I want to throw an image in there. If you really have to throw images in here, here's how you should do it. I want you to watch how we did it over here. I'm going to go to full screen. Now, as you can see, this is the inside of Rose's video sales letter. Again, I could show you other video sales letters, but I don't have access to their Wistia account, so it's easier for me to do it on this one. So this is inside the video sales letter. The slides are just pretty much, just normal old slides. And then watch what happens when we pull in the images and watch how we do it.
The hidden reason why fear has taken over areas of your life. This is what's preventing you from stepping fully into your sacred purpose. You'll enjoy a virtually automatic way to stay true to your course without falling into drama, fear, quitting, or losing faith. You'll see where panic, anxiety, and social...
Okay, just straight slides, right? Just nothing fancy here, right? This is straight keynote, straight slides, and this is where we throw a little monkey wrench into it. Check it out.
Awkwardness really comes from, and how to eradicate it from your life. Plus, you'll be given a simple tool to silence what I call fear chatter. Those seemingly endless mental loops that keep you anxious and worried.
Now, do you see that? That's all we did. Now, all we did is we threw in an image, and sometimes we'll throw in like more than one image. Like we'll throw in like 3 images in a row or whatever. But the text went over the image and was just in a very pretty way to where you could see the image, all of it, and you could read the text at the same time, reversing the text outside the image. It may sound like a really trivial thing, but that one technique to an image radically improved the conversions. Now, if you're wondering, well, how do I do that? There's graphic artists on Fiverr.com. I happen to have one that works for me. There are people that you can hire to do this, and it's not that expensive. The whole video cost us a couple of $1,000s extra to do by putting, I think we ended up using 30 images throughout an hour, and it's almost an hour and 5-minute video sales letter. So just 30 images. The rest of it's all slides. And that 30 images increased the conversions that much. Now, I will tell you right now, because we tested it, if you just put images in there, it's just a waste of money. It's not going to help. If it helps so little, it's not worth the extra effort. Most of the time, it hurts. The key is to keep the reader reading. Because what's going to happen when they see an image like you just saw is they're going to go from, again, if they're slightly zoning out and they're listening to the voice and all of a sudden they see an image, and the image is interesting, they'll pay attention. And what happens when they're looking back at the screen? You want them reading. You want them reading the words. Because again, it's the reading the words and listening to the words at the same time that's creating the hypnotic effect that creates better sales. That's why video sales letters work to begin with. So let me know if that makes sense. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to briefly quit out of this and just I want to show you before we get back into the step one. We're going to go through all of these steps right here today. I want to make sure if there's any questions. If there's any quick questions I can take, I'm going to take a question and answer at the end of this training. But if you have if somebody's got a quick question that's pertinent to this, Leanne, we can dive in here and take it. If not, we're just going to go on and we're going to cover these steps real quickly. Leanne, oh, there.
Yeah. There's one question from Christina that may be pertinent. She asks, is the background color and text color, did you choose those because it's a mostly female audience?
Oh, that's a great question. I did not choose those. Rose chose those, and it's Rose's favorite colors. In fact, when we were putting the video sales letter together, I was like, babe, I really think you should just go white and black. I just really think you should. But what we did is we went with such a very, very, very pale purple and a very, very, very dark purple that it didn't much matter. Now, white and black doesn't have to be the default colors of video sales letters. They tend to be, as you saw, the other ones were pretty much white and black. I think they used kind of a brown color on the actual. Let me see over here on the 5 Foods to Never Eat. Yeah, so they're using this kind of ugly brown color. I think if it keeps going, you'll see that they use black. But so most of the time that you want to use black and you just want to use a white background, it's easier too. But she wanted a really soft feel, and yeah, I think that does work well if you can get into the feel of your audience. So let me just touch briefly on that. The weight loss, let's talk about weight loss, dating, finance, big broad topics like that. There is not one person that has a field that's attached to. And weight loss doesn't have a feel. Financial investments don't have a feel to them. I mean, people are interested in that from all spectrums of the world. Rose's audience obviously has a feel. She's got a very highly niche audience. If you're for example, if you're writing, if your product is for dog owners. I use dog owners a lot because I love dogs, but dog owners are all over the map. You've got guys like me that own dogs. You got meth dealers that own dogs. You've got everything in between. You've got extreme groups of people, right? So you just stick with white and black. I mean, because that's just, you want to go as basic as you can. If you know your audience and your audience is kind of niche and in particular, then by all means appeal to them. Yeah, go ahead and put a little bit of extra effort into just, all we did was literally create a background and a different font color. But once we had it, we just replicated the slides and it was that simple. So that's really straightforward. Now, I purposely showed you, I could show you 100 video sales letters, but I showed you 2 that just came, that are just going right through the Sellerator type of training. Rose's, we did a little bit of custom work too, because that's what I do for a living. But it's still, in her video sales letter, are the 5 steps. And one of these, I'll probably use it because it was so successful. It's doing really, really well. But she's using the same 5 steps we're using here. We start off with a pattern interrupt, the whole stop, pause, where you take a deep breath. That's a pattern interrupt. And then she goes into this big promise after she talks about getting her attention. We're talking about leading you to completion, leading you away from chaos into joy, into this. These are the big promises. So it's following this exact formula. It's just doing it in a little bit more liberal way because I'm a professional copywriter. I can get by with that. You don't need to be. You can just do this. But if you want to get creative, just follow this pattern. That's all I'm asking you to do. Follow the pattern and then get as creative as you want within the pattern. That's what the most successful people have done with any program, not just mine, but any program. They follow the blueprints of it, and then they improvise here and there. But just don't go too far off this plan. When I see people going off this plan, some people will say, I'm going to start off by this. I'm going to start off with step 2. I'm going to dive right into the vital connection. I'm going to tell people, hey, my name is John, and I wasn't always a really successful internet marketer. That's the vital connection. That's not going to work usually. I mean, 99 times out of 100. Why risk that? We know this pattern works. We know it works really well. Again, this is a $1 billion formula here, literally. So you might as well take advantage of it and give that a shot, and then improvise from within it. So we've covered here. I'm going to cover all these steps because I promised you that I would. So if you're following along, work with me here. The pattern interrupt is very simple. It's basically what we talked about, but here's where I recommend that you getting this. And again, if you go through the training, you'll hear me saying just about everything I'm saying now, but I'm making sure that you do it by walking you through this. If you want to pull an image and you want to show something, you want to get a graphical attention like Wes did, And like most other people do, like the goldfish video sales letter, if you've seen that, where Josh shows a picture of a fish and promises you that this goldfish is going to teach you how you can, well, he uses the words get laid, because it's a guy's dating site. So it's just funny because you can't help but laugh. It's a picture of a goldfish, and what does it have to do with having sex? Well, you don't know until you watch the video. That's just straight out of Sellerator. That's a straight pattern interrupt. But here's the key. Try to pull an image for your first 5 seconds, or a story, or anything that's coming into pulling that pattern up together from the story that you're going to tell in step 2, the vital connections, called your nightmare story right here. Now, we're going to cover that next week, but you definitely want to know the story that you're going to tell. And it doesn't have to be your story. It could be a customer story. Just make sure that it's not fictional. In other words, if it's a fictional story based on real events, that's fine. But as long as it's not completely made up. It's best if it's your story, especially if you're the person selling something. If you're saying, hey, my name is Lisa and I'm selling a consulting service, then it'd be awesome if Lisa had this story of like, people pay me a lot of money now to learn how to, let's say that you do consulting in men's fashions. It could be anything. And, I teach men how to dress for success. And I teach men how to dress to help them meet women, to help them look better at work, whatever the case may be. But here's what's funny about me. I used to be the world's worst dresser. In fact, I tried to dress my brother, and it always ended up as a complete nightmare. I can tell you this one story about when I told my brother what to wear on his first date. And this woman, so you see where I'm going with this. I'm making this up completely, by the way. This is not a true story. But you're kind of engaged, because I'm like, okay, so this girl who's now doing this professionally used to totally suck at it. In fact, she almost, I would keep going in my head as a copywriter. My brother was really in love with this girl. I told him to wear this outfit, and this girl never went out with him again. He never forgave me. That would make it really, really enticing and juicy if it were true, of course. So that's what a pattern interrupt does. It leaks you. It takes you back into where the story began. So if Lisa, in this fictitious example, wanted to create a pattern interrupt for something dealing with fashion, she could show a picture of something she gave her brother to wear on the worst date of his life. And she could show this picture and say, these goofy pair of glasses not only got me into studying what makes fashion for a man, what can turn a head in any room and I'm making this up, of course, make every woman fall in love with you, make your boss completely give you a raise, whatever you want to promise them, right? As long as it's ethical. But here's what's funny is these stupid pair of glasses cost my brother his dream date. And I'll tell you that story in a moment and how you want to avoid this. So that's so that you could use an image of a pair of glasses, a goofy pair of glasses, and she told him to wear this, right? But if it doesn't come back into play in the story, it's nowhere near as powerful. So you want to have something in your story. So ask yourself right now, what kind of a story am I going to tell? You don't have to tell an elaborate story. Your story could literally be 5 or 10 slides long. It's just a story about when you went through the roughest phase of your life, or whatever took you from where you were in your life to where you are right now. So everyone on the call has a passion, has something that they're passionate about. What took you to that passion? And what's the worst experience you had with that passion? Take us back to a time before you were ever good at what you're good at. In fact, take us back to the most embarrassing time, preferably the most outrageous story that you could tell about the time before you were ever good at what you're doing now. Because the person watching your video wants to know that they can relate to you. And that's why step 2 is called vital connection. We'll cover that again next week. But it's important to talk a little bit about it now, simply because you're going to want to pull an image from that for your pattern interrupt, if you do the default style pattern interrupt. And if you do what I'm saying, you would just come down here and you would select this right here. So I'll just use the one that Wes used. Now, as you can see, I just clicked a button and just pulled the copy in. Very simple. So, you can say hi, I'm Jim. It doesn't matter, or I'm Jim. And what you're looking at right now is what? Okay. It could be anything. Let's go back and let's say, hi, this is Jane. And what you're looking at now here is, is the ugliest pair of glasses on earth. Okay, so I could just literally do that simple, right? Or you could just say the ugliest pair of glasses on earth. Weird, right? So that's your interrupt. You hit save and new, and it's going to save it right over here. Now, as you can tell, I've already created interrupts, so now I've got 2 of them. So just ignore that. We'll start from here. So it's just building the slides right here. And all that you would do is put an image in that slide when you export it to Keynote. That's really all there is to that. So when I hit save and new, if you haven't been through this yet, please go through this. Notice it takes me to the next part of this. This takes me, it keeps me right here because we want to say, do you want to slide in? Do you want anything else? Of course you do. Okay. So what's the next part of it? I give you all these interrupts, by the way. You can use any one of these interrupts that you want to use. There's the triple interrupt option. There's the verbal interrupt option. There's the classic interrupt option. All of this you'll find in Sellerator. Just pick the one that you want to go through. Now, I used what's called the classic interrupt. You can say, I'll explain what I mean in So let's take some more questions here. And by the way, I'll keep that challenge open there if somebody wants to. Someone says, I don't think that this will work here. Okay, so I got Shannon. I'll go ahead and read this, Leanne. I'll go ahead and read this. Here's a challenge. How could you use these steps in something as short as 5 bullets in 500 words? How could you use these steps? I'm not sure I understand what you mean by these steps. Could you 5 bullets in 500 words? I'm not really sure. Are you referring to going through a are you talking about writing like an email, or talking about something that's shorter, or can you be more specific, Shannon? We'll come back to that question. Satori says, I help people change their money mindset and build their wealth. Okay, so are you asking, like, how would this apply to you? Like, you could say, so for example, if one of the ways that you build wealth is teaching people how to invest in the stock market, I'm saying, so you could say 7 clever stock market investment tips, and in parentheses, they're wildly diverse. So that's just one way to do that, for example. So take something very specific that you teach, and then come up with some number that, and you could even use 3. So if you just come up with 3 clever new ways of investing in the stock market, and you could say, hey, I've got some clever new ways, I put it in a video, and that could lead to your video sales letter. And then you could say, what's really wild is that, let's say that you didn't believe in the stock market and you believed in investing in something else. You say, what's really wild is the stock market isn't even the best investment opportunity. The best one is found, it's my last tip in this video, so you'll want to watch it all the way to the end. Click here. So I'm using the same techniques I just taught you, the same techniques I'm teaching you inside Sellerator, to actually work in email. So the last tip is into the video, so you definitely want to watch it at least toward the end. So I'm opening a loop and getting you to watch more of the video, but also I'm using what's called a contrarian position. So let me tap one more thing back into the email question. In a contrarian position, what you want a contrarian position copywriting wise is say, everyone says you should do blank, but blank doesn't work. So if blank in Satori in your field might be stock market, and I don't know, I have no idea. So let's say it's stock market. And so, everyone thinks that in order to retire early, you need to invest in the stock market, but that's bullshit. I wouldn't say that. I might say that, but you probably wouldn't want to say that to your audience. You say that's bull. That's a lie. It's a myth. Here's the real truth about this. I made a video about it. So the appeal to that is that most people that are reading you probably think that stock market trading is a good idea. So do you see what I'm saying? So that's the trick to that. So that's going to work in email. And it's also very good for video sales letters, by the way. It's a great pattern interrupt. We didn't cover this one today because there's like 20 different versions of pattern interrupts. A great one is called a contrarian interrupt, where you start by saying, say, hey, look at this. And you start off the same way that Beyond Diet did, running, cardio, blank, extreme dieting. A lot of people think this is the best way to lose weight. I'm telling you, it's the worst way. In fact, it's going to cause you to gain weight. I'll tell you what I mean in the story. So what have I done? In this video, I've set up a contrarian position. So that is a really powerful thing. So Shannon, I'm still waiting for you to get some clarification on that, and I'll answer that question. Satori said, how do you do this in live stage presentation? The same exact way. You would start. I would use the contrarian method. I would say, hey, a lot of people come up to me and say this. What if I told you right now that all 3 or 5 of these will cause you to go broke before you're 40? You're going to pay attention to me for the next 30 minutes? I bet you will. I'm going to tell you what won't in a few minutes. So it's the same basic thing that you could use. We people go through Sellerator and use it as a live presentation, down to the pattern interrupt. Saul says, I'm going to read the questions because Leanne's computer crashed, so just bear with us for a second. In my nightmare story, I include a heart attack episode. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. Of one close person. So I know a little bit about that, Saul, as you might know. So I was thinking to use an image of a heart. It shows what happens during a heart attack as my pattern interrupt. Okay, if in your nightmare story, it depends on what your product is. If your product doesn't have anything to do with health, it might work really well. So if you will remember my presentation, one of my webinars on Sellerator, I go into, hey, here's what you're going to learn, but here's what I want to show you what happens first if you don't do this. And I show a picture. I wish I had a picture of me. I wish I would have been that vain, but I wasn't. But I don't have a picture of me being gurneyed out of my house at 4 in the morning and having a massive heart attack when most people are way too young to have a heart attack in your 30s. But that's what happened to me. So that doesn't seem to have anything to do with video sales letters or copywriting, but we made it work. So if it doesn't have anything to do with it, that could be a really good interrupt. It could be really, really good. Yeah. So let's go on through here. So, okay, Chase, Chase, okay, cool. I treat people with headaches. To treat them, exhibit certain conditions, to be nearby when it comes down to getting them into my brick and mortar clinic. I'm curious if you would recommend they pay online to show true interest and refund their purchase if they are not a candidate. That's an interesting question. It goes more toward business modeling than specific copywriting. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. What I think would be a better idea, and I consult people with this strategy all the time, is to use a shorter video sales letter to get more qualified people into a gateway to where you or a rep calls them, and then you set up a call to where it's a paid consulting call. A lot of people I know use that strategy. So a lot of people. Excuse me 1 second, I'm taking a drink of water so I don't lose my voice. Okay. Chase, let me know if that answered the question or not. It would be very difficult to get someone to pay online to watch something unless, and this would be very interesting. I've never seen anyone do this. I've seen people do it with a Tripwire product. I've never seen anyone do it with a Tripwire video sales letter. But Chase, you may be the first, and you may end up making a fortune doing it. Who knows? And if you do, you can come back and you can pay me 10%. I'm kidding, man. You could literally say, look, I've got a cure, and you have to be careful with cure. I understand this, but I've got a solution for headaches that I give away in this training video. It costs you. We charge $9.95 or whatever it is to watch the video. And if it doesn't work for you, we give you your money back, or whatever the case may be. And I don't know if that would work. It could be considered bait and switch if they have to come into the clinic. But if you could give them a tip right away to do that, I don't know how many people would do that, but I know a lot of people do what's called a Tripwire product. So you could do a video sales letter that talks about headaches, and that you've got, most people don't understand the cause of a headache, then they treat it with aspirin. That could be, or ibuprofen, and that's really terrible. You go through the reasons why that doesn't work. You have a solution that works. And you would tell them all about it in this free special report. It's only $7. So you sell a little PDF, and then the PDF would lead them into the clinic if it's brick and mortar. I'd definitely consider that. So let's go through the Shannon's. I'm slow. Okay, so let's go through we're up to Jeff here, I believe. If we've skipped, by the way, if we skipped anyone, we'll be sure to get the answers to your questions through email. If we skip anyone, only because of time. So sorry about running over, guys. I wanted to give you a little bit more than what you bargained for tonight. So Leanne, let's take the next question.
Yeah, that was from Jeff, and he says, John, I know this is off topic, but how many people did you have working for you when you exploded on ClickBank with Every Other Day Diet? My goal is to get on the first page of ClickBank, and I want to know what I'm in for once I get a VSL to convert on cold traffic.
That's a great question, and I love the pre-framing of this, because it just assumes you're going to be successful. I love that, Jeff. It's that mindset that's going to make you successful. So, and by the way, that's a copywriting. When I say trick, by the way, I use the word trick all the time. A trick does not mean deception. And when I say copywriting trick, I just mean it's a tip. So if I say, hey, this is a great trick you can use, does not mean deception. I hate deception, but so it's a great trick you can use, Jeff. When you say, what I'm going to show you today is it's going to cause you some problems, because you're going to, for example, if it's weight loss. Look, the biggest problem that you're going to have implementing the strategy I'm going to show you today is the fact that you're going to have to get a new wardrobe. Now, a lot of people that go through this, what they end up doing is they donate their clothes to Goodwill. And that's what I recommend. I'm going to give you a great place to donate your clothes at the end of the video, because you're going to need it. Do you see how I'm pre-framing? They're going to lose so much weight, they're going to have to get rid of their clothes. So anyway, that's one of my favorite copywriting quote unquote tricks, because it's awesome and it gets someone thinking, wow, this is going to be so freaking powerful. I'm going to get rid of my clothes. I got to pay attention to this. So when I was when Every Other Day Diet took off, it was only about a 30 to 40 day window. So I went from being a one-person company. I was literally one person, and I had a programmer working for me part-time. I had people working for me like part-time, but no one working for me full-time. And I ended up only with 2 people full-time and 8 people customer service full-time, but the customer service was mostly handled overseas. So I didn't need that many more people to run the business, because honestly, it was ClickBank. It was the other people buying traffic for me. If I was buying traffic, it would have scaled up. So my friend Jeff, Jeff Siegel, that runs Beyond Diet with Isabel, they went from 2 people to, I think they went to like 30, but it took them a year and a half, and they went from a book model to a service they're more like a membership model now. So it depends on what you're wanting to do. But yeah, there are guys I know I've either written or everyone on the first page of ClickBank has either gone through Sellerator, or I've written for them, or they know me. One of those three things. Or I've written the letter itself. So I can tell you from knowing everyone up there that there are people that have companies of 4 people and they're making 50 million a year, and there are people that have companies of 30 people because they just want more hands-on. There's a couple guys I know that have companies of 2. One guy and an assistant, and that's it. And now that's not including the customer service. They farm out customer service to people usually overseas. So I hope that answers that question here. Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
We get
so
the next question from Noah.
Uh-huh.
And he says, John, I'm still a little confused about how to use the 3X formula for my $7,000 mastermind. I charge $97 for the application that goes to a phone closing call. But do I tell them the price of the mastermind in the VSL? If I do, how do I present that without them immediately thinking that's too expensive?
That's a good question, because so when you're trying to get qualified leads, what I like to do is to present your argument for why they need to be in this mastermind. What are the benefits for being in this mastermind? And then, of course, you want to, what we talked about today, you want to present why it's going to be really painful if they're not. Okay? What are they going to be missing if they're not in this mastermind? So then you phrase like, if I could give you all of this and avoid all this pain at the same time, is that worth $5,000 to you? Is it worth 10? Is it worth 20? What is that worth to you? Surely, I bet you right now that you would say it's worth $20,000 or more, maybe even $50,000. So I'm pre-framing in their mind what the price value is. And then what I would do underneath it is I say, okay, if you think this is for you, see if you qualify by answering the questions below. And in the survey questions below, I would have below the video sales letter is questions. And one of the questions would be, say, I am willing to invest. If I knew that I could get XYZ benefits and avoid XYZ, the pain, it would easily be worth how much to me? And then have a drop down, 5,000, 20,000, 50,000. So, and if they check $5,000, that you just ignore that lead. If they check $10,000 or $50,000, you call that lead. So you get them to tell you how much it is. Go back to listen to last week's training, the one I did that was the pre-framing, the pre-VSL training, and listen to the psychology behind it. Let the user tell you the price. Let the user tell you what they would pay for this type of thing. So once they agree to it, you can get them on the phone and say, now Noah's a little bit different because he's using, he's going to follow up. It's an expensive mastermind. He's got a $7,000 mastermind. So you're going to go on a phone or a Skype call and say, okay, now you told me on your qualification questions that you would happily spend $50,000 if I could give you this. Well, good news. You don't have to do that. And then, of course, you the $97 for the application. And then I would say, look, I charge an application fee, and I'm assuming that you would apply that to their membership, but that's pretty straightforward. So hopefully that answers that question, because that's how I would totally do it. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, so Saul, yes. If it is the answer to Saul's question is yes, that would be very good. Making it online and starting off with that, it's like, and especially if you use the words like imagine suffering, imagine the pain of suffering this, and then you just have someone like screaming and a heart attack. It's like, yeah, it's like, and then you could. I'm going to tell you the true story about how a heart attack changed the life of somebody and help them and believe it or not, turn them in for making tons of money online. So in other words, you make that pattern work with what you're promising. Make sense? So, okay, next question here.
Yeah, so the next one is from George, and he asks, is there a pattern to the use of background images, such as using them every time you mention benefits, or every time you tell them what they lose, or every time you start a new loop, or whatever?
Is there a pattern to the use of background? Yeah, so that's a great question. You can use the image style that we showed earlier if you wanted to, when you come into the next interrupt. In other words, when you reopen the loop or when you go into the next interrupt. Yeah, definitely you could use that. That's a really clever use of it. It's the irony if you guys want to watch my wife's video, so it's worth studying. Just go to the Copy Posse, it's in there, or here I'll just type I'll type it in here. a little proud of her too. So I'm a little bit, biased, of course, but you'd want me to be, right? You wouldn't want me not to be. That's her video sales letter. So you can watch what we did with those images in there, and notice that the images come in. They're not strategically placed, meaning that we're not saying they're coming in where there's a new, that we're reopening. We're coming back to an open loop, and we're going to close it. But I do love that idea. So this was a test. It was taken from several friends of mine that do high-level video sales letters, and they said, this is working really well for us. And then we just took it and improved it. So this is a very new technique with the images looking like this. So yeah, I would highly suggest using that, George. In fact, I would love to hear your feedback on it, because I think that would work really well. So I think Shannon has a rephrase of this question here. Let me see here.
You're right. How might you use the concept of a pattern interrupt on something like a product listing, or if it's even a good idea to do that? VSLs have the luxury of wider space to work, where product listings or even Facebook ads are tight.
Let me see. Okay, I'm going to actually read it because I want to make sure I understand the question. Sorry, guys. I'm reading off a laptop, and I have really good eyesight, but in this particular laptop, the monitor is it's for whatever reason is not working very well. So let me try something here. It could be because my wife had turned it way down. So there you go. Now I can read it. How much you use the concept of a pattern interrupt on something like a product listing, or even if it's a good idea. VSL have the luxury of wider space, like a product listing. Man, I still don't understand the question. I was thinking maybe I'm hearing it. I'm not listening very well, but I don't. When you say a product listing, can you be really specific? What type of product are we talking about? VSLs have the luxury of wider space to work, where product listings or even Facebook ads are tight. So product, are you talking about product listings like on Google or something like that? Can you, what product are you in, or what product are you selling? Are you selling a product or a service? Give me a little bit more specific, Shannon, and I will answer you either here or by email. How's that? All right.
In the meantime, while we're waiting for Shannon, we've got a question from Satori. He says, a pattern interrupt and video question. Do you suggest using a video for an opt-in page where I offer a strategy session to how they can change their money set point to accelerate their money? I don't teach stocks or investing, but how to sell high-ticket sales with your skills and expertise.
So Andy Jenkins is a good friend of mine, and Andy has obviously some of the best training in the world. If you're going to do video, I would definitely look into what Andy does for Video Boss. His stuff, it works really, really well. That being said, it can be pros and cons, and we've gone back and forth with this. It depends on a lot of things. Number one, how are you on camera? When you come on camera, is it in talking specifically about what you're talking about? Does it tend to make people feel like, wow, this guy is like, he's way above me. I can't relate to him, or are you very relatable? These is your voice, is the pattern, the way that you speak, is it off-putting or is it inviting? I can't tell that, right? So there's no way to know that. But the way to totally disassociate yourself from all of that is to use video sales letters, which is why so many people do. Like, for example, that's not Wes's voice in Wes's video sales letter. He hired a voiceover. Now, Wes is African-American, and when he hung out with me for about 6 months before that video came out, he was just a dedicated dude. And I was like, Wes, if I were you, I would hire a voice actor. And it's not because you have a slightly African-American sounding voice. It's because there's a lot of racist people in this world, and I don't like racism, and I don't want racism to hold you back. So unfortunately, there's a lot of racists in the world. So I'd use a voiceover guy. I just use that because don't want to take any chances on somebody just being some yahoo that has something against people of a different color. So I'm like, and so he did, and it worked out really, really well. So if you have an accent, I say the same thing. So a lot of people come on, so British accents, right? A lot of people are like, a lot of our customers are from Great Britain, and they'll say, okay, well, I don't know why my video sales letter is not converting as well. I said, well, use an American accent. And they said, well, but we're selling to people in Europe. It doesn't matter. Use an American accent. And I don't understand why this works. It just does. Now there are countries where that doesn't work for, but most of the countries it does. So it sounds exotic if you have like a New England accent. Doesn't sound that exotic. If you have like a New Zealand accent or something, or an Australian accent, it sounds like, wow, that would be really appealing. It'd be kind of sexy. It doesn't work that well most of the time. Most of the time, it works better to have someone with a pretty straightforward non-accent, or if they have an accent, like I have a slightly southern accent, that's fine. A slightly northern accent, that's fine. just not something that's so over the top. So putting all those things together would determine whether or not you should use a video versus using video sales that are up front. The last thing I want to say is ask everyone. Everyone needs to talk about this. Like, please ask yourself, why use video at all? Like, what is the reason for me using video? Do you believe that it will help you help you in any way, like to leave a stronger impression in the mind of your users? Do you believe it will make them feel more comfortable with you? You know, if it's not a really good reason, don't use it. If you don't have a really good reason, try slides. You know, and you don't have to use image. You don't have to use any images. You can say, hey, this is just, hey, my name's Story, and I'm talking to you about your finance. I'm talking to you about what's happening for your future. If you're interested in what's happening about your financial future, you're definitely going to want to see what I have inside this website for you. Leave your name in. So really, when you get that right down to it, why does that need a video? That could use a video sales letter very easily, very easily. So we only have time for a few more questions, and I'm going to go as fast as I can so I can get as many out. And everyone else, thank you very much for being patient. We have hundreds of people on the call tonight, and we're doing the best we can and I went overboard on teaching, so we'll get into that.
Quick follow-up from Saul on that, talking about speaking on camera. He says, I'm from Mexico, so of course I have a Latin accent, and as you suggest, I'm thinking of hiring a voiceover to do my VSL. What do you think? What would be a good place to hire a pro voiceover guy?
That's a great question. We don't give out recommendations for where to hire one, but I can tell you how to find one. The reason why is because if you hire someone and they suck, then we don't want the bad mojo coming back to us. And they might have worked great for us, for example. But yeah, definitely thinking about hiring a voiceover. Just go to Google and Google voiceover talent, and you'll find 10 places right off the bat that do voiceovers. And the great thing about these guys is they'll read your script. Ask them don't ask them to send their demo reel. Find their demo reel and say, I want you to read 1 minute of my VSL script. They'll do it almost invariably for free. And you'll be able to tell right off the bat who you choose. That's what I recommend. Satori, to finish it, yeah, like Brendan's videos are great. And Brendan is awesome on camera. He is so like non-threatening. He's so engaging. I'm a little biased because he's a buddy of mine, and he's really one of the smartest dudes I know. So if you're gonna follow Brendan's formula, that's awesome. But if you go right from that video, like we did with Rose, for example, Rose's was 2 minutes, and then we go right in the videos, right in the slides, it works so much better than going all video. All video just will not work well. In fact, Rose's intro, we're going to run a new test with that, where we have every word of her pattern interrupt scripted on the video, underneath the video. It'll have to be closed caption, unfortunately, because you can't have that running across her face when she's talking. But that's how emphatic I am about having all the words on the screen. So hopefully that helps. Okay, we have time for about 1 or 2 more questions, and then we are going to call it a night, and we're going to go have dinner. Hopefully you guys got a lot of, tell me, did this help you guys? Was this helpful? Help get you motivated to get that first step 1 section down? Let me know if this was helpful, if you lit some creative fires in you, if you got a lot of value out of the training. Awesome.
Yep, people are saying yes, yes, yes. And you have answered all the questions, so good timing.
Hey, look at this. Not a bad night. Hey, great, awesome. So I was great. Yes, very much. Great value. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mega thanks. You're welcome. Really appreciate you guys. We got one more question. Abs over 40. Okay, Abs over 40. Have a 70-minute video presentation. Yeah, I know those guys really well. Do you know if they ever tested a text-oriented VSL to sell their info product? Yeah. Okay, so that goes back, Tony. That's a really great story. Those guys are the Six Pack Shortcut guys, and I wrote their intro for their Six Pack Shortcuts VSL, and that one did really, really well for them. And I love Dan, and it used to be Mike. It's now a different guy. Dan went more for the over 40 angle, and so Dan, what's worked really well for their product is, and you have to understand where they're coming from, is they're coming from 99% of their traffic is YouTube. 99%. They are the #1 fitness guys on YouTube. It took them years to crack YouTube. So they are a mega $1 million company because of YouTube. And they have YouTube marketing down better than anyone on earth. So here's what's interesting. They never tested slides. And I've asked them to test slides over and over and over and over and over again. And the reason why they haven't tested slides is A, that they haven't gotten around to it. And what they were doing is working fine. And B, and this is huge, the person watching their video is coming from a YouTube video, which is all video, okay? So it only makes sense. What I'm getting them to do now, and so I think Dan's going to do this because we're the new Abs Over 40 guy, they just started testing is my workout partner. So my friend Clark, they're just starting to test Clark's videos, and I think Clark's video, they're doing really, really well. So I'm really pushing them to say, look, put text over your video. If they just do that, if they just put text at the bottom of their video, I can guarantee you their conversions will go up. I don't know if they'll double because their volume is so high, but they'll go up 30%. So the last time they took my advice, their conversions went up 38%. So they probably will take my advice and go for this. I hope so, because they're awesome dudes and they produce some good stuff. So so glad we got that last question in. Leanne, thank you so much for staying late. I really appreciate you. Everybody give Leanne a round of applause. So thank you so much for joining us. And really appreciate you spending so long, 2 hours here with us. Really appreciate that. And keep us posted on your success, and any questions, support@sellerator.com. You guys have a great night.